Welcome back to Velshine Rule. Russia issued a very sharp warning following a New York Times report that the U.S. deployed cyber weapons deep into the Russian electrical grid. News of the American intrusion into Russian networks comes nearly 1 year after the Wall Street Journal reported similar actions Russians took against the U.S. power grid. The Times story this weekend prompted a pair of tweets from none other than President Trump, accusing the paper, the New York Times, of treason and claiming that the Times made the story up, again calling the Times the enemy of the people.
Now, according to the Times reporting, two administration officials said they believe Mr. Trump had not been briefed in any detail, as Pentagon and intelligence officials described broad hesitation to go into detail with Mr. Trump about operations against Russia for concern over his reaction and the possibility that he might countermand it or discuss it with foreign officials. The sources cited concern over a May 2017 meeting in the Oval Office between the president, you'll remember this, and the Russian ambassador to the United States and the foreign minister, when Trump allegedly revealed intelligence information to the Russians that compromised sources and methods necessary to national security.
Joining us now, Dave Weinstein, former operations planner for U.S. Cyber Command. He's the current chief security officer at Clarity, a security company that specializes in protecting critical infrastructure. Dave, we are so lucky that you are here.
Yeah.
First, help us understand, why put these cyber weapons into the Russian grid? Why provoke Russia?
Sure. So assuming the reporting is accurate, obviously there's a military interest in holding certain targets at risk, right? Russia has been extremely aggressive in the cyber domain. We've known that for years, dating back to 2012. But this is inherently escalatory. And one of the differences, again, if the reporting is accurate, is that we would actually be targeting what is civilian infrastructure, right? So you have military targets, but you also have civilian infrastructure. The Russian energy infrastructure, specifically their power grid, is massive. We're talking about 500,000 substations, 500 different power generation facilities, and 20 different independent power companies. So to affect that at scale is extremely difficult. What my concern is that we may be losing the moral high ground here, in the sense that the United States has to date been viewed as a benevolent actor in this space, and we have been painting Russia as the aggressor. This is exactly the opportunity that Vladimir Putin has been looking for, to paint us as the aggressor.
So
that's why
we can't argue they play dirty, we don't, if we
play dirty back.
It certainly hurts the argument. Now, it sounds like the president has some plausible deniability. He's claiming he didn't know about this. We know from previous reporting that there has been a desire to delegate more authorities.
Is that impossible, though? Like, from your experience, can that happen? That we could have U.S. cyber forces attacking or targeting the Russian grid, and the president wouldn't know about that explicitly?
It's possible. What we know, based on public reporting, is that increasingly so, the president has looked to delegate more and more authority to commanders in the field. That's something that the current U.S. commander of Cyber Command has called for. And frankly, that could be a good thing, right? We don't want too much bureaucracy, especially in a domain that moves as fast as cybersecurity. But at the same time,
does it mean the New York Times is lying, like the president says?
I have no reason to believe the New York Times is lying. They do cite a couple unnamed sources, current and former officials. What they're not lying about, and what I can attest to based on my experience in this field, is that Russia is extremely active. But this is escalatory. The question is, by striking back at them, by fighting cyber with cyber, so to speak, are we going to actually deter future operations from the Russians? Or is this actually going to embolden their narrative, fit right into the Russian propaganda machine, and be used as an excuse for them to increase their aggression against the United States?
So the problem with fighting nuclear with nuclear, or fighting traditional land wars, is that you can come to a treaty, you know who was on the other side, generally speaking. Right. You can count the missiles, you can see the troops. Yeah. When it comes to cyber, a lot of it is not done with a label on it that says born in Russia or from North Korea or whatever the case is. So how do you even get to a place where you have détente? How do you get to a place where you've said to the Russians, all right, you've done this to us, we can do it to you.
Sure.
Why don't we stop doing it? Because everybody kind of denies they were doing it in the first place.
Everyone's denying it. The nuclear analogy is not particularly useful because it's not transparent.
Right.
You can't see the missiles. You can't kind of message in a transparent manner. It's extremely opaque. There have been some efforts to establish norms at an international level where countries agree at the state level on certain norms of behavior, what constitutes right, what constitutes wrong. My concern with this reporting, again, if it's true, is that, again, we're dealing with civilian infrastructure, which heretofore has been kind of seen as off limits. Not necessarily off limits for the Russians, but off limits for more benevolent actors like the United States and others in the West. So it hurts us in that regard.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.